creating drama is really a sign of immaturity, and I'm fucking done with it. If you have something to say to me, say it. And if you don't like me, fine. I don't like you either. Hey everyone, I'm Mike.
And I'm Andrew.
And we're the Midlife Guys. So on last week's episode, Andrew and I told you about the things that we thought were the best parts of being in our 40s. We also discussed some of those worst things about being in our 40s. If you've not listened to that episode already, we will leave a link in the show notes. You should listen to it. It's wonderful.
Yeah, check it out. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because one of the big topics in that episode was the fact that some of the best and worst items were things that actually surprised us. For example, I talked about feeling more liberated in my 40s because I've gotten to a point in my life where I'm no longer trying to impress everyone I meet. I am who I am at this point. Take it
Deal
or
with
leave
it. That's right.
Deal with it.
Deal with it.
So today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the things that really surprised us in our 40s. There's going to be a little bit of overlap between last week's show and this week's show because, as I mentioned, some of the things on that list from last week did surprise us. But there are going to be a lot of new things as well. And I'll be curious to hear from our listeners to see if the things we discuss were also surprises for them as well. Andrew, are you ready to talk about the things that surprised us in our 40s?
Sure thing. Lots of things surprise us. But yeah, to your point, I am interested to hear what others, I think, are their surprises too. I always like to kind of hear from what other people are going through. So definitely share your surprises. Let us know what you think of ours as we kind of dive into them.
Awesome. So the first thing that we're going to discuss on our list is what's been called the joy of missing out. Definitely in your 20s and maybe a little less in your 30s, but just a little less, is the idea that you attend as many social functions as humanly possible, whether they be social events with friends and family or work-related social activities. There's this sense that you really need to be at all these events because you're networking and you're keeping up with everybody. And before I get comments from Andrew and Freeman, I will say that even though that I don't have a family and many people start their families in their 30s, they would continue to hit the social scene and bring their kids around like accessories. Hence our ongoing joke about why parents should not bring their children to breweries. You don't need to do that. Stop it. Andrew, you were guilty of that.
Ooh, I brought kids to breweries. That's right. Yeah. I love to go clubbing with my kids, actually. Bring the baby carrier with you, go out in the club. Yeah. No, not really.
But when you hit your 40s, you really take a step back and realize that a quiet night in on a Friday night is exactly what you needed. Maybe it's just watching a movie with your family or friends. Maybe it's just sitting at home and rotting on the couch, because rotting is now a thing. That's what the young kids say. They say,
that's what the youngins say?
That's what the youngins say now.
So we should rot on the couch and watch our black and white movies and go on Facebook or whatever, like the 7th graders.
Exactly. According to those 7th graders.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be, the idea is there is more joy in missing out. Missing out is maybe too strong a way to phrase it, but just doing nothing. You don't need to be at every party, every function, every work event. You can just be yourself, be in your own headspace. I appreciate this. Sometimes I need to be in my own headspace, especially now, because I can think through things. It's also good for my mental health and well-being, and I think it's really important. All right, Andrew, what are your thoughts on the joy of missing out?
Yeah, well, I think my first thought is just to kind of clarify something, which I think you touched on, but I want to make sure we're kind of clear for our audience, is you're not saying become a hermit and don't go outside and do stuff, right? You're saying it's just maybe you cut back on, you're not as active as you once were, and you don't feel that obligation to be at everything. Like networking is still important in many people's professional lives, or you still want to keep up relationship with friends, right? You're not saying just like say goodbye to the world and, shutter yourself in.
No, not at all.
Yeah, right. So it's good to make that clear, just so that's not what we're telling people to do. Um, but I do think that the idea of, I kind of framed this, we talked about this a little bit, as more of like prioritizing our calendar. Like something that surprised me was how often my wife and I talk about our calendar and the schedule. It's like literally every single day because there's just lots going on with kids in different directions and work stuff that we have and other commitments. And so like we definitely in our 40s have become much more territorial about like our calendar and sort of like what things we do agree to and don't agree to. I do agree with you on that front. Like I think there is a sense that sometimes you need to take a break. I think one big difference between your 40s and your like 30s, at least for me, is I am, as we talked about last week, much more sore and tired in my 40s. So I think just the idea of like going out sometimes, I'm like, it'd be great is a movie night at home where I don't have to do anything. So that I definitely think is been something that's new and somewhat surprising. Although I will push back on this, I guess, ongoing, probably never ending conversation about kids and where kids do and don't belong. Cause I think kids are fine at breweries. If you're going to go meet with people who are your friends who are adults and they also have kids, especially, and their kids might be there, there's nothing wrong with bringing your kids around. They can hang out together. It's good for parents to get out and socialize. It's not like, as I was joking in the beginning, I mean, no one should be bringing their kid to like a nightclub or something. But I think there are some places like breweries or restaurants, it's fine. You can bring your kids along.
I didn't say anything about a restaurant, but breweries are not
A brewery is
playgrounds, and they
basically the same thing.
turn them into a playground.
I mean, some breweries have playgrounds now or like have spaces for kids. I mean, they're
Mm,
basically the outdoor spaces become playgrounds.
mhm.
It's fine. Just have
Okay.
another beer and just enjoy all the fun of watching the little ones run about.
Makes my head hurt. Makes my head
Mike's like,
hurt.
I need an adults only brewery to go to. That is,
Really do. Really
yeah.
do.
But I do think you're
Alright.
right, though, on the bigger point I was going to say about kind of being more selective, I guess, about what type of things that we end up doing, which is, I guess, kind of a surprise that happened for sure.
Yeah. Quiet nights in.
I'd like a
Reflective
quiet
time.
night. Yeah.
Another thing, for our second thing, that I am much more serious about, and apparently I am not alone, because when I was doing some background research on this is a number one issue for midlifers, taking sleep a lot more seriously. And that
Yes.
also surprised me. So we discussed this also in a previous episode. Again, guys, go back and listen to that episode because it's really good. We did a really big deep dive on the importance of sleep in your midlife years. Go back
Mhm.
and listen to it. So for me, I have invested a ton of time and resources into finding the right mixture of things that will help me get a good night's sleep. Finding the right pillows, the right mattress. I also tend to sleep hot, so I found these like bamboo sheets, which really help me stay cool. Love these bamboo sheets. Got to be a big boy and actually order the bamboo sheets. Um, so, I've also tried to figure out the right temperature balance in my room, blackout curtains. And I love the Calm app. If the Calm app wants to sponsor us, that'd be so cool because I love the Calm app. It's my savior for helping me get a good night's sleep.
It is
Um,
amazing. You're the one that introduced
mm,
me to the Calm app. I also love the Calm app. I use it almost
lifetime
every
subscription.
night. Yes. Yeah.
Mm,
It's one of the best investments I've made, and especially getting a good night's sleep. Yeah.
Calm. You should sponsor us.
Come on.
There will be, of course, things that do disrupt my sleep. I don't have kids, but I do have a dog who likes to move around a lot at night. And then there are external factors like weather. We are definitely getting into summertime weather because I just saw on my phone before jumping on the podcast that we are now under severe thunderstorm warning for this afternoon. So that do be happening in the
Summer
summer
is
months.
here. Yep.
Hmm But I do a lot to not only or I have done a lot to not only create that space, but I try to do a lot more to prepare myself for sleep we talked about that in a previous episode. Getting away from screens, making sure that I'm just like drinking water and nothing else. Um, so because sleep is important, it's very important for us now. So Andrew, has your sleep or your prioritizing of sleep changed, and has that surprised you?
I mean, I guess well, it's changed. It's definitely towards the very top of the list now. And I can relate to this because the past 3 nights I've not really slept thanks to dogs and kids. So I even more now, especially appreciate the importance of a good night's sleep. I'm like, oh, I miss sleep. I need some more. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely moved up the list of things that I think about and prioritize. I think that's kind of surprised me a little bit, I guess, of just maybe how impactful a good night's sleep or likewise not getting a good night's sleep can actually be. And for me,
Mhm.
what's been surprising too in my 40s is not just like the immediate day afterwards, but it kind of lingers sometimes for like a day or two later. I can still feel myself dragging. It's like it takes a lot longer to fix a sleep deficit. Like if I get a night or two of really bad sleep, it takes a couple of days of good night's sleep to kind of catch up for that. I don't know if you've noticed that too, Mike, but that
Oh,
feels
yeah,
like a
absolutely.
40s thing. That was not in my I feel like gosh, in my like 20s, especially in my 30s. I used to be like, I don't need much sleep at all and I'll be fine. But now it's
Nope.
if it's not a solid at least 7 or 8 hours of sleep, I am dragging the next day and sometimes more than a day. So yeah, sleep for sure, I definitely think is a big priority. And again, it's surprising on how much of an impact it has on my like day-to-day life now is whether or not I'm sleeping.
Mhm.
Yeah. You know, something else that I will throw out there that for me too kind of has been a bit a surprise in my 40s is um like you, we talked about sort of prioritizing things or not always think you have to do everything, the importance of sleep. Another thing that kind of I found is this idea of the power of no, which kind of goes back and maybe to your first point, but it's one I wanted to share in that again, I don't know if it's just because both you and I are kind of A type personalities, and I feel like probably a lot of our audiences too. Um, like the sense of you always had to say yes to everything or do everything, whether that was and not just like in your professional life necessarily, but I'm thinking about like volunteering or being involved in like neighborhood or community groups or things like that, which are all wonderful. But the sense, at least I especially felt this way in my 20s and 30s, like, well, I have to say yes to everything and get involved in everything and be everywhere. And if I don't, who's going to do it? And it has to be me, or else no one else is going to, this thing will fall apart, which isn't really true. And I feel like, especially since having kids and how busy life has gotten and we're trying to juggle, you know, my schedule, my wife's schedule, our kids' schedule, like some of that stuff I've learned. I don't know what it is, and maybe this goes back to your liberation idea from last episode too, but just the sense of it's okay to say no, and I actually take some like pleasure or pride in saying no sometimes, and not just saying no to my kids, but no to other stuff. Like two good examples, I'm rolling off of 2 volunteer boards at different points this year. And in the past, I would have been out looking for like, "Oh, how can I replace them? What are 2 other things I can do instead?" And this time I'm like, "You know what? Nope, I'm gonna take a break. We're gonna sit back, kind of see what happens." If I end up discovering maybe there's something that, I would love to do or be a part of, I would definitely am open to that, but I'm not actively going out there and looking for, okay, what's the next thing I have to be involved in? And in fact, someone actually approached me about joining something that I was just like, didn't feel super psyched about. And I was like, you know what? Nope, I think I'm good. Like, thanks for asking, but no, thank you. And it was nice to do that. And again, that's been a relatively recent thing. Or just like a neighborhood association. I'm involved in that in my neighborhood. It's a neighbor and I actually started it because there wasn't one, and we've been together leading it for like 6 years, which is a long time and it's a decent amount of work. And I've always been afraid of, well, if I don't do this, I don't know who else might step up. And you know what? That's not my problem, really. Like, I got to focus on, what we need to prioritize and still be supportive and helpful. But at some point, you got to give other people a chance to step up. And so the power of no is something that I've been surprised by in my 40s, how much I kind of go to that and go back to that idea of like focusing on things that I really want to do or I think are going to be impactful or that I'm passionate about. Have
I
you
think
felt
that's
any of
a
that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point, and I'm glad you brought it up. I don't know if I'd frame it as the power of no
Yeah.
necessarily. I definitely see where you're coming from. Because you're right. I mean, like you, there was a point I was on 12 different boards or commissions. And so
That's a lot.
it got really crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like you cycling through these different positions, and some lasted 3 years, some lasted 8 years. And so, I guess I decided it was only a couple years ago that I needed to be more protective of my time.
Mhm.
um, I think for a number of different reasons. The first being that I had realized that there were certain things that I was missing out on, just like personally, that I wanted
Oh. Mhm.
to work on. Just professional development, but also just like personal growth,
Yeah.
like reading more and, learning things that I wanted to learn about. Um, I also think that it had to do with like just realizing once you hit 40 that you do have like you do need to sleep more. You do
Right.
need to
That's
like
true.
recover more. And so, we talk about that like joy of missing out, or at least quiet time. Those things became much more important to
Mhm.
me. And so I am much more I am much more sensitive about how I allocate my time.
Yeah. I
So
mean, that's what it is. It's not, I guess it's just maybe another way to look at it is it's not feeling obligated to do stuff. Like, I feel like for a
yes.
long time, I had to say yes, and as I hit 40, I realized I don't have to say yes to everything. Yeah.
Yes. And yet again, we are very much type A personalities. And so we were quick
Right.
to jump into a lot of things. Um, Which was good because, I mean, some of these organizations have really, grown and
For sure. Yeah.
thrived. Um, but yeah, it's just that's just there's a point where you just gotta be like, "Thanks, but no thanks."
Yeah.
Alright, so the next thing that really surprised me, but this kinda ties back to our episode last week with that, feeling of liberation, is my intolerance for fucking drama. No more drama at this stage of my life.
Good luck.
Before
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Before starting our company, I worked at a place that was filled with drama. Employees were constantly stabbing one another in the back. Um, and it was very unhealthy, but the leadership kind of like promoted that type of behavior. It was a pretty
Mhm.
sick fucking place. Um, and there also were, and unfortunately still are, some people in my life that are incredibly dramatic. They love stirring the pot. And I don't put up with it. I just do not want to put up with it anymore. Drama has no place in the workplace. It really doesn't have any place in polite society. And, I don't want it in my personal life either. Stop being fucking dramatic. Stop talking about people behind their back. You don't need to create conflict just to create conflict. It's Creating drama is really a sign of immaturity, and I'm fucking done with it. If you have something to say to me, say it. And if you don't like me, fine. I don't like you either. I
What is
do
this
not.
polite society you speak of?
Mhm. I just don't have any time for it.
Yeah.
It's like I don't want people in my life whose sole purpose is just to stir the pot. And, for me, I have dropped friendships because of it. I've dropped work colleague friendships because of it. Grow the fuck up, act like a mature human being. And if you're in your 40s or in midlife, hell, if you're over 40 and acting like this, grow the fuck up. So what about you, Andrew? Are you done
I
with the
mean,
drama?
yeah, drama's exhausting. I don't think, and you're right. I think at a certain point too, it just is like, why? I don't understand. But some people feed off of it, which I also don't understand, and that's equally exhausting. I'm just like, you would be much less stressed out and just a happier person if you stopped trying to stir up shit all the time or try to be
Mhm.
create tension and issues. I don't get it. But no, I'm with you. I'm all for less drama, but at the same time, I feel like that's why I said good luck. It seems like it's sometimes impossible to avoid. I know my mentality as I've gotten older is I can control myself and how I behave and react in situations. I can't always control other people. And so those people who are super dramatic, I just try to avoid them as much as possible because I don't want to get sucked into their like tornado of dysfunction or whatever the heck they've got
I
going
like
on.
that.
Yeah, I'm just like, no. Um, well, my another thing that surprised me, and it really isn't related to drama, but you talked about friends in there. It's kind of related to friendship since being 40, um, has been, and I guess this kind of goes back to kind of some of the challenges I already talked about, but just how hard it can be to make and maintain friendships as you get older. I think that's definitely been a challenge. I've had, new friendships I've read, and I did not do enough preparation for this episode to pull out a study, but there have been a couple of studies about how as you get older, it is actually harder. It's been proven harder to make new friends. And I mean, my thought of could be because I think in formative times of your life, whether it's like high school or college or just out of school or whatever it is, like you all are experiencing something at the same time. And so I feel like that makes it easier to make longer term and deeper bonds. And as we talked about in a previous episode, I think one of the special things about friendship too, like the longer you've been friends with someone, I feel like again that bond gets deeper and it's stronger. Whereas when you get older, sometimes I feel like harder to make new friends. So that's something I'm working on, but it's been kind of a surprise that that's a challenge. I think with kids too, one of the challenges sometimes like as kids become friends and like I'll become friends with their parents, and we can stay friendly and friends, but if the kids kind of wax and wane in their friendship, I feel like the adult parent level friendships kind of can wax and wane a little bit as well, which is just kind of a surprising dynamic I hadn't really thought about. And then I sometimes struggle too with like maintaining friendship in the sense of like just staying in touch with everybody consistently can be hard. Again, I will go back to blaming somewhat kids or just busy lives in general. Like there's so much going on. And it was funny, I was texting with a good friend from college a week or two ago, and we were kind of texting back and forth and realized like we both live in the same city and hadn't seen each other since December or January, which is kind of crazy. We're like we live 20 minutes from each other, but because we both have kids and stuff going on, it just and like trying to schedule a time to meet up is like, well, we can do it like 3 months from now, which is again just kind of wild given everybody's schedule. So that's been a surprise, not a great surprise, but something I'm trying to like think about and work through and how can you, if not make new friends, work harder at making new friends, or at least try to do a better job maintaining those friendships? Because that's definitely been something that's been surprising and tricky in my 40s. But have you experienced that, Mike? Like the idea of like keeping friends, or you're very sociable. I feel like you make friends left and right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate that I constantly making new friends, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, maintaining friendships has been difficult. I do try to make sure that I text folks that I haven't spoken to in a while every
That's
once in a
good.
while. Um, keep in touch, just little touch points. Doesn't have to be anything dramatic because got like you, I've got friends all across the country, and
Yeah.
so it's you know it's just figuring out these little touch points, just checking in with people. I think is important.
Yeah.
I do need to do a better job of that as well, but you know, life,
Yeah. Like, it's what it
life will
is.
come at you.
Do the best you
Life will
can.
come
Yeah.
at you.
Mm.
All right. So the last thing that I'd like to discuss as a surprise is this why not mentality. So I'm not going to speak for Andrew, but there have been numerous examples of things that we've done in our lives um, and in our business since we've turned 40 that are these why not moments. We are trying to take new risks. We're trying to make bigger investments in our future, or we're trying to take trips. We're always asking ourselves, well, why not? Um, Sometimes the risk works out really well. Sometimes the risk doesn't pan out so well. These are risks that I don't think I would have taken when I was younger. Um, and I'm not sure that either one of us would have taken these risks when we were younger. But we're not getting any younger, so why not take the risk? Um, I'm not going to go into too many details, but yet again, Andrew and I have have definitely done, I think, a lot of things over the past several years that I don't think we would have ever done before. So it's fun, it's exciting, and I think yet again a level of our ever evolving maturity has allowed us to question why not.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think when I think about why not, I know I think about like personally and professionally, kind of similar ways, but it's sort of just like as you get older too, and I think you have a better understanding or grapple on the world, hopefully, is a sense of why not take some calculated risks. To your point, they don't always work out, and sometimes they won't, and you need to go into it knowing they might not work out,
Hmm.
and that's okay. But I think the calculated part is really important, right? I mean,
Yes.
neither one of us, I think, are going to be like, one of us is going to like rent a van and travel the country for a year or something. I feel like that's probably something which might work for some people, not necessarily for either you or me. Um, but I think it's just understanding, yeah, like what is your risk tolerance? What are you willing to try to do? And I think it's also sort of a growth piece as well. Like you're not necessarily going to have new experiences, or you're not necessarily going to be able to grow or see the upside of certain success if you don't take a risk in the first place, whatever that risk may be. Maybe it's a new business venture or a new job or a vacation or a new relationship or whatever it is. You have to take some sort of a calculated risk if you want to see some upside from that. And I think, as I've got my 40s too, the idea of the why not has been not wanting to become too stagnant. I kind of do worry about
Mhm.
that sometimes as we get older. It's like getting so set in our ways. Going back to your earlier point, Mike, if you are who you are, you got to deal with it, which I think is there's truth to that. But you also, all of us are kind of evolving as well. And I think part of that goes into the why not of not wanting to just kind of feel like you're stuck or stagnant or crusty. But like, well, I'm not going to do anything different because that just seems kind of sad. So yeah, I definitely agree. I think that why not mentality has been kind of a surprise and something I think we both leaned into. I know some other midlifers have been leaning into as well. This idea of let's try something new again within sort of a range. Or not doing anything like crazy out of the box, but
Mhm.
trying new stuff and just kind of seeing where it takes you.
Yeah.
Okay, so my final surprise um, is almost the inverse of that. So not being stagnant or say no to doing new things. But what I've been really surprised by, and this is for sure in the past year or so, is um, like leaning more into becoming a Luddite when it comes to technology. Like as I see all around us, we're like
Hmm.
surrounded by technology, and it just feels like increasingly like tech is centered rather than people being centered, and we're all kind of becoming like trapped and consumed by the technology that's around us. And some of this was like the evolution of social media, some of it's the AI stuff, but it just feels like we're moving as a society in a direction which is just like tech first, and people are a secondary thought, and I'm not here for any of that. So I'm gonna find ways to like rebel a little bit, and some of that is figuring out how can I disengage from technology? How can I put screens down? So how do I spend more time outside, or make sure like the kids aren't on screens all the time, that I'm not on screens all the time? It was a good example of this last weekend. Our two boys were out playing with neighborhood friends, and my wife saw one of the other parents outside, and she went out to talk, and they started chit chatting. And then I kind of grabbed some beer and wine and walked over there, and we sat in their front yard for like 2 hours, just hanging out and talking with each other. No screens, the kids were running around. It was great. It was a really nice experience. And like as I'm getting older, I want more of that. I want more connection, more in person, more people stuff, more real world experiences, and less of feeling like I have to experience the world through a screen. Now, I'll note the irony of this is obviously we're talking to people through technology, right? Like they're listening to us on a podcast or watching us on YouTube. And I think there's a balance. You can't like completely, check out. I'm not going to go live off the grid or anything. But I do think I have been making a more conscious effort. And I've been surprised in how much more of a conscious effort it has been to find ways to move away from technology and not let it take over my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's important. But we're a podcast, Andrew. Don't you go running and listen to
I
podcasts? I
do.
mean,
So that's fine.
you're
That's, yeah.
yeah, you're out in the
Yeah.
world. You're out in the world and they can listen to our sage advice. So
You should do that. But I mean, sometimes I'll literally just like put all tech away and just like experience the world around you. I think that's, I guess, what I
Yes.
was trying to get is that's important. And again, can't do that all the time, but finding opportunities to do that, I think, is valuable. And finding that like human connection piece throughout your day or week, I think, is also important because I don't know. The more I'm reading about there's a whole other podcast topic, but AI direction of certain types of models and companies, I'm just like, ooh, I don't want to go down that road.
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. AI is going to be the gift that keeps on giving for
Mm.
topics on the podcast. But
Oh, that's probably true. Yeah. I don't know about for the world, but I guess for topics on the podcast, it'll.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've blown through another 30 minutes, guys. If you've not done so already, please like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you a thing, but it helps us out a lot. Remember that you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartMedia, and all your favorite podcasting platforms. And until next week, good luck, guys.
See ya.